Hi guys, Owen here from LES. So this video we're going to cover the settings menu. So again, we're on iCON 3D. This is our home screen. So as you power up your panel, this is what you will see. We've already done a bit on tools on the first video. So in this video, we're going to come across the settings. Okay, so we're going to select settings. As you can see, there's 6 sub menus there that you can go into. So you have projects, machine, instruments, surface, other, and localization. Okay, so the majority of these you won't really need to go into much. I'd say surface is going to be your main point of focus when you come into the settings menu. Projects, if you just do need to change a project. So we start off with projects. So this is the project we're using at the moment, LES test. Okay, so if you just select that menu, and then if you wanted to change a project, if you moved from one site to another and you already had that project folder selected in or brought in, you can just select that. So I'm going to select LES Office, blue arrow, back out. So you can see here now, this is the active project we're using at the moment, LES Office. Machine, the only real reason you'll have to go into machine is if you have more than one system set up on Leica 3D machine control. So if you have 2 excavators, let's say, and 2 of them are kitted with the Leica 3D base kit, so 2 of your machines are Leica 3D ready. If you're taking your panel, your cab kit, which is your panel, your 2 CGA60 antennas, 2 yellow dishes on the back, and your ICG82, which will be your yellow GPS receiver. If you're taking all those bits off that machine and put it onto another machine, so let's say we were working on this LES demo case 210. We were working on that machine yesterday. This morning, I've gone onto another machine that's kitted out, and I'm going to select that from here. Let's say if you went from a case 210 onto a Cabelco 230, whatever, you'd probably have, when that machine was calibrated, you'd have the name and serial number down, so you can select it. So let's just say that was the Cabelco. So that's your machine selected. Down below here, you'll see a tab. It's not showing me on the simulator, but you'll have it on your panel. It'll say 2D settings. So you can either store or load your settings. So basically what you're doing is the settings on your panel at the moment are from the previous machine that you were working on yesterday. So you just need to select the load button. So what that's doing is it's loading the settings from the cradle that's on this new machine this morning, and that's loading those settings onto the panel. So you're working to that machine. So if you're changing from machine to machine, you just need to load the settings that's from that cradle onto the panel. Once that's done, select OK, and then back you're good to go regardless of machine. But like that, if you just have one machine and one system, you won't really need to go back into machine. So instruments, okay. So again, you won't really need to go into this much unless you're changing, say if you're on a SmartNet license, for example, you'll be working off that. If you had to go onto a base station, or you wanted to go onto a base station, you'd have to come in here just to change your configuration. So just at the moment, we're on a road line demo. We're obviously on a simulator, so we're not connected to GPS. But what you'll have is GPS, and you'll have an iCON GPS 80. What I tend to do when I'm setting up a profile is that you'd have iCON GPS 80 and then the model of machine, the serial number. So you're setting up a profile for that machine. Okay. So to go into the settings, just hit the spanner key. Okay. So at the moment, this is set up for SmartNet. Okay. So N-trip internal modem. That's where you're going to select. If you're working off a SIM card in SmartNet, you're selecting the N-trip internal modem. Again, settings, hit the spanner key. So this is your SIM card information. So let's say, for example, you're with Vodafone. If you do have a PIN code, put it in there. You might not have a PIN code, your APN, username and password. Again, that's specific to whatever carrier you're using. So Vodafone, we'd have the Vodafone APN, username and password. So once you have that all in, you'll have a green tick here beside the PIN code. That means that information is all good. So we're on page 1 here now at the moment. Scroll across to page 2. This is your reference network. If you're working off SmartNet, again, you'll be on either Max or iMax. Okay. So we'll go across to the N-trip details. So this is specific, this user ID and password is specific to whatever SmartNet license you have. So you'll have your own user ID and password. N-trip server information you put in is ie.ntrip.eu, and then you'll have your port number, whatever port number you're working to. Okay, once you have those in, you should get a green tick here beside port. And once your username and or user ID and password is good as well, you get a green tick here as well. If you still have a red X on either of these, there's something there. It could just be rechecking your user ID's input right and password. Once you get a green tick, you're good to go. You get the mount point as well. That will, as it says there, system will automatically connect to the server once configured. So then once you get your mount point, that should select automatically, but you can go into a list and select it yourself. We should select the nearest. Okay, so once you have those two green ticks, you'll see these little tabs up here. They'll start to change. So you want your solution to go to fix. Once that goes to fix, your satellites is the number of satellites you're seeing at the moment. So it could be anywhere between 12 to 17, whatever you're getting at the moment. Age is the frequency you're receiving the corrections, the GPS corrections. Okay, so you want that to be around the 1 second. Once that's on fix, once solution is on fix, that should come right down to 1. Between 1 to 3 is usually normal. At and above 10, it'll just say 10 and greater, and there's just an issue there. To try to look at it again and see what the issue is. So that's it with regards to N-trip. So just when you go back out, save your settings. So we didn't change anything. So what we do is we go back in and then set it up as if the only difference is really if you have your N-trip set up, if you're going onto a base station, you just need to change from internal modem into internal radio. Okay. So then you're going to go into spanner again. This is a bit more straightforward, and that is all you really need is the frequency that base station is putting out. So once the engineer or contractor gives you that frequency, you can put it in, and they'll give you whatever the radio protocol, whatever that base station is working to, you'll just select it from that drop-down menu. Okay. Once you have those in, once the frequency is right and the radio protocol is right, you should again get your fix, and your age should be down to 1 second. So that means you're connected to their base station. So again, it's just dependent on what you're working to. We just scroll across through the settings. So we're on page 1. Scroll across. Page 2, you won't really need to go near. We'll be inputting those details on the calibration. If you have your own machine, just say it's already set up and all that. This is your the GPS direction, the correction angle between the two masts. So that should be input. Just make sure that's at degrees as well. Okay, and it's dual GPS. Obviously, if it's dual GPS. Scroll across page 3. So this is your max CQ. So this is your max accuracy that will allow you to dig to. So let's say you're on a dig screen and you see your fix down below on the bottom right is at sort of 30 mil. That starts creeping up. If that hits 50 mil, you get a red bar flashing up on the screen, warning you that your 3D CQ has hit max, and it won't allow you to dig. It won't show you your cut and fill values, so you won't be able to dig to that model. So you can change that if you want. If you wanted that up around 100 mil, not recommended, or you can bring it down if you wanted to change that to 30 mil. Okay. Scroll across again, and then this is just sky plot. So it's basically just like a radar showing you the satellites that you have there. Okay, that you're seeing. So we'll exit out of that. So save settings. If you're doing any changes or anything, just save those settings. One thing I'm just going to touch on here: if you do have to go into the settings of your position sensor, which would be your ICG80, just be wary of that red X. Okay. This is all touchscreen, so if you go to touch that spanner to get into your settings and you hit the red X, it's after deleting the profile straight away. It's not very good. Ideally it should prompt you or should ask you, do you want to delete this profile? It doesn't, it'll just do it straight away as soon as you hit that red X. So basically what you have to do, it's a bit of a pain, but you just have to add in that iCON GPS 80 again. So it's different, same brand, model is iCON GPS 80, and you can change the name of it here. So say if you were back on your Cabelco, so we can say Cabelco SK230 or 230, and then your serial number, say, just for example. So you could have that as your name of your GPS 80, okay, and then you'll have it in the previous menu we show you when we get over. So then again, you just have to put in your details like we just did. That's where it's a bit of a pain. It just has to be done to be able to work. So just try and stay away from that red X. So all that will be white clear. You have to put all that back in, okay? So we'll exit out. So we save the settings. So then you see there, we have the Cabelco machine and serial number, okay? Again, that's it's handy to know which profile you're working to depending on what machine you're on. That only comes in if you have more than one machine. So that's instruments. Surface is a big one. So this is where you'll be coming in mostly. So basically, if you're given a new model or file off the engineer or contractor, so he's put something on your USB, he's given you the USB, you've plugged that into your panel, and you've done the data transfer. This is where you're coming to find the new models. So at the moment we have 2 models here, okay? So I'm going to drop one in. So imagine that was already there. You're working to one terrain model, and the engineer's giving you another one. You've done the USB sync. This is where the new one will be. You won't be able to use it until you add it into this drop-down menu, okay? So we'll add that one as well. See, now there's nothing up here. So you can select either of these 2 models on the dig screen. You don't have to come back into settings or surfaces to do it. Once they're in this drop-down menu, you can select it. You might have 5 here. You can work to them from the dig screen. You might have 2 up here that you haven't added in yet. You can't work to those, okay? So that's where you're picking your models that you're using. Terrain model up here, that's probably the majority of the time is what you're going to be digging to. You can use like a road line model if you had it. We have a couple here. You can dig to those as well. Height reference, you can use a height reference. Basically, it's just giving you a level. If you set that height reference to a height, say 80 meters, you'll just dig to that 80 meters. It'll tell you when you're high and low. But yeah, mainly terrain models are what you're going to be using. So we have the held models as well in the surfaces. It's basically just if you want, say, to use a DXF as a background image, you can select it from your held models. You see there's one there. Okay, so that surfaces mainly going to be for using or selecting your terrain models. The surfaces is going to be a big one. Localization. If you set up a new project, or say if you're, again, the engineer is giving you your USB, there's a new project on that USB, you've started a new job. If you select that project, this is going to be empty, okay? This is only full here now because we selected it when we set up the new project. So imagine we just exit that out, okay? So you have a new project, you come in. So this is your coordinate system, your grid that you're working to, okay? There's nothing there at the moment, so you can't work to anything. Select predefined button here, come up country and region. Now this is alphabetical, so obviously Australia is first on the list. It's always going to show Australia. That doesn't mean that you're working to an Australian grid. It's just you selected from it and it shows you your available coordinate systems. So this is ITM 15 that we're using at the moment. And then your geoid is selected for it as well. So select OK. So you see here now it's selected up in that bar. You can press the spanner just to show you that your geoid is selected as well. Again, if you go back into predefined, it's going to be back at Australia. Again, it doesn't mean you're using an Australian grid. It's just giving you the option of a menu to select the country. It's alphabetical, so Australia is first. Okay, so you have your coordinate system. You're not really going to come in here much, to be honest. If you're working to Connex, probably more so. So if you're working to like a Connex, networking, this is blank. On your panel, you'll see it's literally just ways of connecting to the internet. So you have Wi-Fi, you have cell modem. So basically, the Wi-Fi is if you can connect to a Wi-Fi, or if you can connect to a hotspot on your phone, work off that internet. Cell modem, if you have a SIM card input into the MDS20 cradle, the cradle for the panel, you can connect to the internet via that SIM card. So once you have that, you go through the motions again. If you select it, if it's a SIM card, you'll have to input your APN settings and everything. Once you're connected, these yellow bars you will see starting to light up. Once they go solid, then you're connected to the internet. It'll tell you when you are. So connecting to the internet, then go into services. So this is your Connex. So when you actually are paired to the Connex system, it will say paired. We're not paired at the moment, so it's unpaired. So share screen. If you select that, if you want the person in the office to see your screen, you select that, and then they can see what you're doing at the moment. If you press a spanner, you can enable remote control mode. So that means that they can actually go through your screen. So he's sitting on the laptop or the computer in the office, and he's able to flick through your menus. It's good for the likes of myself for tech support, but it's totally up to you. If you want to just share the screen, he can see what you're doing. Track machine is obviously just tracking the machine, its position via GPS. Exit out of that. Auto check for new files. You can do that. And then, yeah. Okay, so that's basically it. There's not much more to it. You can show Connex. You can turn that off if you wanted to. There's not much more in Connex. Once you're paired, it will show you paired. Once you select these, it will give you a pairing code. So it'll probably be 4 or 6 digits. You'll talk to whoever it is in the office and give them that code, and then they can connect, and then you'll be paired. You'll see that you'll be paired here then. Okay. Other than that, in the other, you won't need to do much local. I'll just change those settings in calibration. So it just depends on what you're working to at the moment. We're working to meters, degrees, temperatures, such. Like if you're working in America, whatever, you're probably going to be working to feet or foot. It's just depending on where you are and what you're working to. Calibrate screen maybe if you needed to. If you felt you probably you wouldn't have to really do that. But that's it when it comes to the settings menu. There's not much else. Just make sure that you have each of these sort of categories selected, sort of filled in. So let's say reference model. If we have no reference model, I'm just going to exit these out. So we see there's nothing here for the reference model. Now, if I go into dig, it's going to tell me not Luis. No, let me just change that back to load line demo sensor. Right, so let's say I go into dig and it's saying reference model error. Okay, so that's because I haven't got a reference model selected. So you're usually going to have a machine selected, obviously, because you can't select some of these menus if you haven't got a machine selected. You'll have your project selected. So the main one is your reference model. If you haven't got a reference model selected, just make sure you drop one in, whatever one you're digging to, and then we go back and dig. Away you go. Okay. This is blank. There's no machine there because I've changed my machine. So on Excavator, which isn't calibrated. So if we drop that back to LES demo case, which is calibrated, I'll just show you real quick. So if you go into your spanner, scroll across, I have my settings here. So my GPS, X position, Y, I have the roll length, pitch length, I have the boom length, stick length. Okay. If they were all at 0, that's where you'd see. You wouldn't see it up in your panel. You wouldn't have a machine or a boom or a dipper. And as you can see there now, because I've changed the machine. There you go. Okay. So that's it, guys. Cheers. Thanks for that.